Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Yes. Hey guys, welcome to today's development meet. Today is a different meet. We'll be talking about Meshery's relationship. This is one of the training series for contributor training series. So to start off with the relationships, I think it's fair to shed some light on what a model is. So a model is basically a blueprint of the technology, which is defined in Meshery. So they are the units of packaging for definitions for Meshery logical object presentations. So I won't be going much detail into a model because we already have a training series about this. So you can check out the contributor training series and get more information about models. Moving on to our components. Component is a fundamental building block which represents for a particular model. So, for example, we have the few components here for Kubernetes model, like daemon set, pod, stateful set, ingress, namespace, and much more. And so now about the relationship. So this is the secret sauce of Meshery. So a relationship is what defines how two components of a model interact with each other and how they change configuration of each other, how they create new configurations, and how they can help you in your cloud native infrastructure, how you can manage them. So this is like a visual and meaningful aid for your infrastructure and managing them. So to start off with the relationship, so basically there are two main types of relationships, starting off with the semantic relationship. So these are meaningful relationship which makes sense for Meshery to make connections with. So for example, we have Kubernetes deployment and namespace, which are a universally accepted components for Kubernetes. So this is one of the semantic relationship example. Now we have another thing called as a non-semantic relationship, which is mainly not a meaningful relationship for Meshery or for the system to recognize, but it's more of an architectural representation for us to just structure out what component is to another component, or just to show an architectural diagram of infrastructure that you're defining. And under the semantic relationships, we have mainly four types of relationship, which is hierarchy relationship, which are parent to child relationship, siblings, which are of the same origin, but then they have different roles for each other. Edge relationships, which these depict the edge connections between two components, and tag sets, which share the same key value pairs, annotations, or labels. So we'll dive deep into more of these single-handedly and start off with the edge network relationship. So this model is in network trafficking or routing or selection between two components. So for example, here we have Kubernetes service and Kubernetes deployment. So here we can see the traffic routing between these two components. And similarly, we have edge reference. So this model is a logical association or like the dependency between two components. For example, if we have EC2 instance, which is referring to elastic IP address, which is claiming by its name or ID. Up next, we have edge permission. So here it's more of an access control between two components. So here we have AWS IAM model, where the policy gives permission for a role to execute certain operations and permissions. We have edge mount. So this is like an isolated storage interaction. It represents how a workflow represents and binds with two components. For example, we have pod binding, mounting to a persistent volume via a persistent volume claim. Up next we have firewall. So this is similar to a network, but instead of representing a traffic flow, it represents traffic control, like access control between two components. Here we can see AWS VPC having a firewall connection with the security group. And here we have an edge annotation. So this is what I was talking about for a non-semantic relationship. So as you can see here, there's SQL Cloud and then there's two AWS components. There is no meaningful relationship formed here in Meshery. It's just a representation of me showing, hey, look, there's two components here, which are of AWS and another one of SQL from Azure. So it's just visually useful. There's no meaningful interaction between these two components behind the scenes. Up next, we have hierarchical relationship. So one type is the hierarchical inventory relationship. So these are like the parent to child relationship. Here we have the namespace and deployment. So, deployment is on top of a namespace. So namespace is a parent here and the deployment is the child here. Now we have the hierarchical wallet. So this is like the opposite of inventory. It's like a special button up hierarchical. It's like a opposite of inventory relationship. So like here the WASM filter it influences the WASM plugin. So it's the other way around. And lastly, we have the hierarchical tax sets. These are just these are formed by key value pairs where the configuration key value pairs are formed, and then this is the relationship that is formed. So there are mainly two types, two ways in defining a relationship. Um, so one of them is using CLI, another using the UI. I recommend the UI method because it's much more easier. The CLI method, it involves using two commands. So one is creating the folder structure by using mesh serial model in it. So when you use this command, the model in it, it creates the model JSON, the component JSON, the relationship JSON, credentials, and connection JSON. So in the relationship JSON, you can define your relationship by adding the appropriate fields, and you can import them to Canvas, and you can use them, or you can also, if you have the model and the component definitions along with the relationship, you can use the model build command, which builds the OCI image, and then you can import them directly to your Canvas. So this is like just this example of how you can import uh, a design or a model. So here I'm just taking a demo example of OCI image, and I import it, and this gets imported and it's visualized in Canvas like so. Right now, let's go on with the fields of relationship. About the UI method of creating relationship, I'll be showing them along with the fields used in relationship here. So I'll show you up in the next slide. So, so distinguishing each of the relationship among other, the main type of definitions or the main criteria which differentiates one relationship to another is the kind, type, and subtype field. So as I showed before, we have edge hierarchy relationship, binding, non-binding, parent, and subtypes, network, mount, permissions, reference, and much more. So I'll show you how you can define each of these relationship. And first, you should when you go to Canvas, you can go to registry and you can open create a relationship tab in the UI. I'll show you that at the end of the slide. So in that you can just write the file name, model category, and model category is where you define a set of, or you can select a bunch of category in that, for example, observability analysis, orchestration, security, or privacy. So these filters out certain specific models for you to select and define relationship for. And then once you select the appropriate category, you can then go ahead and select the model that is filtered out. Up next, we have the description. You can describe what your model, what your relationship does between these two models. And we have is annotation checkbox. So this mainly is when you check the is annotation, what it does is that it makes your relationship a non-schematic relationship where it's only used for visually showing that, hey, this component connects to this component, and it skips the policy validation. I'll talk about policy validation later on. So to just brief up, policy validation is like a rule book that is defined in Meshery, which validates your relationship, if it's a valid relationship or not. For example, I could just write something called as non-edge, which is non-existent, or something as referencing instead of reference. So the policy validation makes sure that you're defining valid relationships. Up next, we have style. Style is when you can define when a relationship is formed. You can select how opaque you want a relationship to be formed, how large or how small it needs to be. Next, we have the classification. So here is a main type of classification which I showed earlier, which is type, kind, subtype. You can select whichever you want, but it should be appropriate. For example, if you're selecting edge, it has to be either binding or non-binding, not parent. Parent is only for hierarchy. Similarly, if you're selecting edge, you can select firewall network, not parent or wallet, because this belongs to the hierarchy relationship. Up next, we have selectors. These are the core matching criteria available in defining a relationship. This is what gives meaning for a semantic relationship. Here we have allow from and allow to options. So allow from is that components that will get modified from, and allowed to is where the components connected and get modified to. Similarly, we have something called as a deny from and deny to, which is similar, which is the opposite of what allowed to, allow from, allow to does. So when a design is formed, you are defining that a relationship shouldn't be formed from a certain component to this component by mentioning its fields in the deny to option. And now we have the patch. So patches shows how you can modify a relationship when it's established. So under that we have three categories. One is the patch strategy, where we have where it applies the modification to the relationship. Can be merge or replace. Merge can be when, let's say, you are connecting two components from and to, and you want uh, the configuration fields from one component to join the other component. So that's when merge is used. Replace is when you are replacing the existing configuration fields in one component from from the joining of the other component. Similarly, now we have mutated ref and mutated ref. This is this in the mutated ref indicates from where you want your uh, configuration fields to be taken from, and mutated ref shows you the target field where you want the mutated refs to be formed, established. Now, up next, we have match. This is more like a granular control for your relationship, where you can mention, look, I want a spec. You can mention the specs of a certain component, and what Meshery does is that it selects that component and looks for the specification that you mentioned in the match strategy, in the match section, and that connects you to that component, and then the relationship is formed. So it's more like a granular control for creating a or connecting two components to a relationship. So this is basically an overview of how you can create a relationship. I will be showing this to you in the UI as well. Right. So this is the Canvas UI here. You can, let me just sign in. While I sign in, I'll just show you the next remaining slides of the presentation. So last we have the relationship policy and relationship evaluation. As I mentioned earlier, policy is like the codified rulebook for infrastructure, where once you create a relationship, policy is what where the relationship evaluation refers to for the already defined relationship, which it basically validates that your relationship is a valid one. So it is built through OP Rego language. It helps you capture the organizational best practices and security mandates and resilience requirements. And lastly, we have the evaluation, which is the main part of a relationship when a design is created, when a design is formed, when a design is validated. The relationship engine is this is what validates your design against the rule book, which is the relationship policy. So this ends the basic overview of a relationship. Now let me okay, show you the UI way of creating a relationship. A bit I think I've been having this issue of opening Canvas, I guess.
Hi, Darpan. Sorry for interrupt you. Could you please explain patch, in the Messery model again?
Right. You want me to explain the patch, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
And specifically the mutator wrap and the mutated wraps.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
In the patch there are three things now: mutator wrap and mutated wrap keywords like that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so patch comes under selectors. Let me just take you to that. So patch is basically this is where you mention the fields where you want certain fields to be modified from one component to another. Let's say component A and component B. If you want the fields of component A, let's say let's say, for example, ports or the name of the component. If you want that to be merged with the component B, so we use the merge strategy. Or if you want the component B specs to be replaced with A's, with A component A's specs, you can use a replace strategy where the existing specs from the component B will be replaced. So this is the patch strategy. The mutator and mutator refs are simple. It's just that what I explained, that when you're selecting two components, which is component A and component B, and you want, and the modified component here, if your target is B, then you will mention the mutated refs of the component B, the specifications of it, and you will mention the mutator refs of component A from where you want the specs to be taken from, and to be, to be the target point for the mutated refs.
All right. So are we guys using the JSON schema, like for this?
Sorry, your voice is not that clear.
Are we guys using JSON schema because it's mentioned JSON ref, and ref is a keyword in JSON schema that refers to the
Yeah.
specific thing.
What scheme are you talking about?
Sorry.
Actually,
I
yeah, I think you had like that's a good question. So like yeah, the how we define a relationship, there is a schema backing. So we have a like there is a JSON schema for a relationship, but like yeah, in this right like particularly for the mutated ref, it doesn't refer to the like as the ref like to a schema like you would have in OpenAPI in or in JSON schema, but it's just mutated ref means it's a field where we point out to the specific field in the declaration of the another component. So like if you are trying to define a relationship, say like a simple relationship that exists is kind of a network relationship between a service and a deployment. So you have a deployment at that you want to get exposed from a service. So the way usually that is like you have to have like this common port. So you would reference the port number inside your service that you are going to expose from the deployment, and you would also specify the match labels and everything. So these are kind of the fields that would come into question when you are trying to like create a network, like basically like expose the deployment to a service. So what you would do is like from a service you try to like use the same ports that you are exposing to a deployment. So if you are defining this relationship and are trying to like codify this behavior, you have to kind of mutate something like either the services fields would get like matched with the deployment, or you might think like in the inverse way like deployments fields would match the server. So you basically like these mutated and mutator ref is like the mutator ref is the field that updates a different components field, and the mutated ref is the field that gets updated. So it's like the mutator and the mutated, and it's just a path to the field. So it's like a common, it's not a common separate, it's like an array with like a individual items point to the field, sorry, the position of the field. So you would do like spec comma templates comma like ports, then the port number like to identify the particular position of the port that you want to update. And in the same way like this can be like any field inside your component, or so you like it, sorry, inside the schema of the component. And that's basically mostly about the mutator and mutator. And then the strategy is basically like what you want to do, like do you want to update the fields, do you want to kind of merge the fields, maybe you want to merge the two components fields together to do the relationship, or maybe you want to replace it. So those kind of are the strategies to do the mutation. But yeah, that's basically it, defines how the mutation happens and to why the mutation happens.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yep. So for anybody who wants to create relationship in UI, you can go to the registry here, and you can go to relationships, create relationships. You can add your file name. I'm just taking an example of edge reference. You can select anything for your model. I'm choosing orchestration management. I will choose Azure. Next, you can add your ID, uh, type, kind, and subtype. Next, you can add your selectors. This is what I was talking about. This is where you have your match and patch strategies under. And then you can also add deny to or deny from where you don't want the components to be interacting from. And then you get your JSON output of all of the definition of your relationship. So this is just basic overview of it. You can download this, and you can use it in your or the undefined model, or you can define a new model. You can use your relationship from your you can import it to your canvas, and you can, use your relationship in UI.
Actually, like Darshan, if you're comfortable right now, maybe would go through like creating actual relationships, like maybe like as an example, this service to deployment relationships. Everybody would know like exactly what to do. So like we just go slowly through everything and just talk like what we are doing, so everybody will know how we are
Yeah.
choosing different fields and what the values usually go.
So I'll just take an example of edge reference. I'll just take a file name edge reference, orchestration management. I'm selecting Kubernetes, and I will just give an ID, and then type. I will give it an edge. Kind will be in edge as well, and reference. Actually, here it should be second.
Yeah, the type would be non-binding.
Yeah, non-binding. Next, we have the selectors here. You can add kind can be, let's say, your deployment model category. I think there's a little bug here where we cannot choose the model category, but yeah, so and then yeah, you choose your model category, your model name here, and ID again. You can give it 00.
Yeah.
And this is where once the category is enabled, you can choose the patch option here, which will be merge, replace, add. So I think now it's not being, I think there's a little bug here that it's not opening. But yeah, you can select the options here, and you can add more options. You can press here, and then you can add your match strategy here for more granular control. And then again, a new selector if you want. Then we have the deny here, where you can do the same thing here, where you don't want, where let's say I don't want it from a cluster role. Say different, we have a different components here. I'm saying do not take it from cluster role, and I give the model category, the name, and the match settings here again. Here again, you will. I don't think you don't have to use patch for this. You can just give it the model name and the specs. Then next you can, this is your defined JSON output. You can just download this, and you can just go to your mesh models, use that in one of the Kubernetes. Let's say you can go to your Kubernetes model, add it here, or let's say, for example, I'll take Karmada. I'll just add it here. If I'm defining a relationship for Karmada, I'll add it in the, I'll create a new folder here, relationship, add it here, and then I use Meshery CTL model import. This imports the model, and you can open your local host, and you can try out your relationship. You can add more relationships if you want. And yeah, that's it. You can do it in your local host as well, or you can do it here in the remote provider. Any other questions? And also, Meshery integrations is where we have the currently defined relationships. So here you can check out the selectors from, and selectors allowed to definite. This is basically, there's a workflow which runs every night, where we define the relationship, we define the kind, type, subtype, and the selectors, and this automatically defines definitions for each Kubernetes, for each models, and then you can see the defined relationships in the mesh models, and you can use them in Canvas. So this is a single source of truth for our relationships, our components, and our models for Meshery. Yes, any other doubts?
I don't see any questions. Maybe we might have some questions here on the YouTube chat. I don't see any questions. So actually, like if you have some sample design ready with some relationship, you might just show like a demo in the canvas with different relationships and how
Yeah.
they are getting visualized.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Actually, I think we have some time left. Yeah. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
like if anybody has questions, please feel free. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Junaid,
Hello.
yeah, you're audible.
Actually, I have
Actually, Junaid, your voice is cutting.
Cracking, yeah.
a
Visible.
question.
Junaid, your audio is lagging a lot. We can't understand you.
Maybe like try writing the
Yeah,
question in the chat.
So, for example, if I take a deployment here and drag it into the canvas, just a second, my internet is
Yeah,
slow.
actually, I think there's also some traffic on Canvas right now, so things might be a bit slow. But yeah.
Right. So here you can see the relationship evaluation where I just drag and drop the deployment. The namespace automatically appeared. This is when the evaluation is finished and the hierarchical parent inventory relationship is formed. So this is just one of the examples of the hundreds that we have defined in Meshery. So yeah, guys, you can feel free to drag and drop AWS uh, models or Kubernetes or Azure. You can try out these relationships. Yeah, I don't see any questions in chat here.
yeah. Actually, that was because I was running Meshery in a local device. That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
So I show you something.
Are you sharing your screen?
Actually, like we can like go back to your item a bit later, Junaid. I think his internet's not working.
Zoom lag.
Actually, yeah, thanks, Darshan. I think this was good. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. Like anything else to conclude?
Yeah, guys, just try out the relationships in Canvas. Go drag and drop, create new relationships, and ask anything in the Slack. Tag me, and I can help you out. And
Yeah.
do check out our contributor training series where we have a bunch of videos on similar, like we have on models, we have on servers, server, we have on CLI, UI, and we have much more. So yeah.
And now it would be fine because I closed it. Actually, I'm running into a problem uh, where I'm like logging again and again, and like I'm getting like I have no enough permissions. That's why I can't like access these things, and also
Actually, yeah,
I
like if
can't
you have
like
that issue, one thing that would help is like if you try to like remove your browser's cache, because like sometimes you might have like some expired token that would cause that issue. Like,
I also tried it in incognito.
okay, you're still facing the same issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I will take a look and I'll come back to you later. Yeah. Thanks for pointing out.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Darshan. Also, yeah, I think this was a good training. I think yeah, we might do like a next session on mostly like kind of creating relationships from a user's perspective in Meshy and seeing how things are going. Like this was more like a developer's training to define new relationships. And if you want kind of a way to like a training to know how to create them directly from Canvas and using basically like using relationships. So yeah, I think we might have a another training for that. So yeah, for now, yeah, like if you got any help from this, I feel free to like define new relationships in Meshi, like from any of the different workflows that Darshan mentioned, like whether you like doing from CLI or you like the UI pickers. So sorry, the UI wizard, create new relationships. So like if you are working with particular set of components that might not have a relationship or some CRD that doesn't have a relationship defined, feel free to create the relationship, and then you basically get as you will get the JSON that you use, you can then also PR the same thing into the Meshery repo, so that gets kind of officially put into Meshery's registry, and everybody else can also use the relationship if it's like a generic one for everybody. Yeah, feel free to do that. That's also a great way to kind of learn about different CRDs and different models and different components. So these relationships are not just limited to Kubernetes. We might have just given couple of examples for Kubernetes, but like relationship or support for all the models, and like we have relationships defined for Azure, for AWS. I think there is still open issues for GCP. Yeah, if you're like comfortable in those areas and you have kind of a, like it requires a bit of like DevOps knowledge, so you need to have some domain knowledge of these resources to create relationships. Yeah, if you are comfortable with that, is yeah, it's a great way to contribute to Meshery and make the project better. So yeah, you can always make a pull request, and that probably would be merged if it's good. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
good. I think we don't have anything else also to share today. There are not no other agenda items. So
Abid, I
yeah.
would like to ask one thing. It's like what I get until now is we are trying to make, relationship between the component, and after that we will get a download JSON file,
Yeah.
right? So the first question is, I would like to are this component are totally locally run or maybe deploy on publicly? So if these are, deployed publicly, then how we use JSON wrap keyword in the, schema. So because it doesn't wrap keyword basically either used for a and exist schema if we are pointing to it on locally, or either we can use for a like a publicly for a reference. So if the component is locally, I'm not sure, like components maybe locally or publicly. So how we manage it, like in JSON wrap.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you are getting thrown off by the word ref. So, like, when we are like defining the JSON, like the relationship definition, so we are not defining a schema. So it's like the formatted JSON, but it's not like a JSON schema. We're not defining a JSON schema for a relationship. We are actually defining a definition of the relationship. So the word is just like it means a ref because it's pointing out to something, but it's not it's not a JSON ref. So you're not pointing to a schema. It won't be like passed through like any JSON tooling. Like it won't be going through a JSON draft or anything. It's not like a schema. So that's the thing. Like it's a definition. So we have a schema for relationship that's just defined one. So if you go to like schemas.meshy.io, so if you go to yeah, let me show you something. Yeah. So there's a repo called schemas in Meshy, which is like under Meshy. So yeah, you can see that this houses all of the schemas for all of the constructs that are in Meshy, like Darshan talked about models, components. So all of these constructs are backed by a JSON schema, which I think you are already aware of and comfortable with. So like, yeah, you can see here, there are all of these schemas defined. So you would find one also for the like for relationships. So all of these schemas are versions. Like right now we are on the V1 Alpha 3 is the latest for relationships. You can see like this is the schema of a relationship. So this basically just defines like a structure. So if you are nerdy enough to like know like all of the fields and what they are, so you can just go to the like kind of the roots of it, and this is kind of the structure of a relationship. So this is the schema of it. What like we were talking about, or Darshan was showing, like we are like kind of defining like now definitions of the schema. So you won't be defining like creating new schemas, but definitions of these schemas. And the ref is not like a JSON schema ref, it's just the name of the field is ref, because it was like it's a bit confusing. Yeah, it could have been better something like points, like something else rather than a ref. But yeah, it's just the name is similar, but it's not a JSON ref. It's just the field name of the field is ref. So somewhere here you will find the word mutated ref. Yeah, so it's just a property under the schema that's named mutated ref. It's not like a JSON ref.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I think yeah, that helps. Okay. So yeah, everybody, yeah, that's mostly it. Does anybody else have any questions? We have a couple of minutes left. Okay, nice. So yeah, thanks Darshan, and yeah, thanks everybody for joining in. I think that should be it for today. I'm not sure, like Darshan, are we having a newcomers meet tomorrow?
I'm not sure. I think Naman has an idea.
Yeah,
Someone?
so yeah, we'll be having newcomers meet tomorrow. And if you want to know more about other training series that we have, you can join us in the newcomers meet tomorrow. We'll see you guys.
Yeah, great, Naman. So yeah, everybody. So with tomorrow we'll be also having like I think an hour earlier than this one, or yeah, I think yeah, an hour earlier than this one we'll be having newcomers meet. So we'll be talking about other aspects of the project, like other than the relationships, like if you are new and want to contribute to some area and you have still not gotten your hands on Meshery. So yeah, we'll be going through that tomorrow. And yeah, also like other like UI aspects, websites and everything would be talked about. So yeah, feel free to join tomorrow. And yeah, that would be helpful. Like if you're new, yeah, like even if you are not new, you can still join it. Yeah, it's helpful, and you can also help others if you're comfortable with particular area. Okay, thanks everybody. So I think I can probably wrap up. Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.